Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
The Himalayas are very high mountains. They form a long border between two big countries, China and India. More than one-third of all people on Earth live in these two nations. The border area is over 2,400 kilometers long and is a place with much tension. This border is not clear. There are no clear signs, and not many people live there. It is hard to know exactly which part belongs to which country. Because of this, problems can easily happen. For many years, there were no deadly fights between soldiers from China and India. But recently, a serious fight happened. It was the first time soldiers died in a clash since 1975. This event changed how the two countries saw each other. China has a big plan called the Belt and Road Initiative. This project builds roads, ports, and other important things in many countries. China wants to grow its influence around the world. This plan adds more pressure to the border issues, especially because China is building things in countries that are not friends with India, like Pakistan. India has reacted to these changes. India sent more soldiers to the border. It also banned many Chinese phone applications. India has started to make new, stronger friendships with other countries. India believes China wants to be the most powerful country in Asia. India wants to stop China from controlling everything and making all the rules. China's leader, Xi Jinping, aims for China to be a very strong nation, which makes solving these issues harder. 2. Friends become enemies. After 1947, both China and India became new, independent nations. In the late 1940s, China's communists won their revolution and created the People's Republic of China. Mao Zedong was their leader. In the same decade, India gained its freedom from Great Britain and formed its own democratic government. India was one of the very first countries to officially recognize the new Chinese government, showing hope for a friendly future. For a few years, China and India enjoyed a time of friendship and cooperation. They saw each other as important partners who could grow together. There was a strong feeling of Asia for Asians, or India-China brothers. Leaders from both countries visited each other and talked about working toward a peaceful future in the region. This period of good relations suggested a strong bond between the two large nations. However, this hopeful time did not last long. Soon after establishing the People's Republic of China, the Chinese government began to extend its control over Tibet. In the late 1950s, Chinese troops moved into Tibet to fully take over the region. Before this, Tibet had been largely independent. This action by China started to create tension with India. In 1959, a major event happened. The Dalai Lama, Tibet's spiritual and political leader, had to flee his homeland. He escaped to India, seeking safety and shelter. The Dalai Lama stated that he could not have made this journey without the strong support of his people. India welcomed him and many other Tibetan refugees, giving them a safe place to live. This decision by India deeply angered China. China believed India was wrong to accept the Dalai Lama and the refugees. Beijing even accused India of working with countries like the United States and the United Kingdom to help the Dalai Lama escape. This event caused great damage to the trust between China and India. Both nations had signed an agreement to respect each other's land and not interfere. But after the Dalai Lama's escape, they began to have serious disagreements on their shared border. By the early 1960s, the relationship had very little trust left. The old friendship ended, and a long period of disagreement and confrontation began. 3. The first big fight. The relationship between India and China became much worse in the early 1960s. The trust and friendship that had once been shared slowly disappeared. A major reason for this change was a surprising discovery India made. India found out that China was secretly building roads. These roads were not in China's land, but on land that India clearly claimed as its own. This construction happened in the high, cold mountains of the Himalayas, a very difficult and remote area to access. India saw this secret building as a direct challenge. It was a clear sign that China did not respect India's borders. This act by China caused a lot of anger and increased the tension significantly. Because of this and other growing disagreements, a big fight started in 1962. This was a border war between the two large nations. It was fought directly over the same disputed territory in the Himalayas, land that both India and China said rightfully belonged to them. The fighting was very harsh and difficult. Soldiers fought bravely in extremely cold weather and at very high altitudes where breathing is hard. Many people lost their lives during this short but intense war. Thousands of soldiers died on both the Indian side and the Chinese side. It was a truly tragic conflict for both countries, showing how serious the border problem had become. China eventually won this war in 1962. After the fighting stopped, China kept control of a large and very important area of land. This area is in northwestern India and is called Aksai Chin. China's victory meant they held on to this key territory in the Himalayas. The war created a deep and lasting wound in the relationship between India and China. It cemented the border as a place of constant tension, unresolved disagreement, and frequent military standoffs. This first big fight made it very clear that the future between these two large neighbors would be difficult and full of ongoing challenges. 4. The problem with maps. The long border between China and India has three main areas of disagreement. These are Ladakh, the Doklam Plateau, and Arunachal Pradesh. Ladakh is in the northwest mountains, a cold and high region. The Doklam Plateau is a high land that sits at the meeting point of China, Bhutan, and India. Arunachal Pradesh is in the eastern part of India, but China claims this whole area, saying it is part of southern Tibet. These three spots are often where problems happen. The big reason for this disagreement comes from old maps. Many years ago, British mapmakers drew lines to show the borders of these areas. India believes these old lines are the correct and official boundaries. For example, in Ladakh, there were lines like the Ardagh-Johnson line and the Macartney-MacDonald line drawn by the British. In the east, for Arunachal Pradesh, there was the McMahon line. India has a clear idea of its borders based on these old drawings, seeing them as well-defined lines. However, China does not agree with these British-drawn lines. China states that its past governments never formally accepted them. This means there is no borderline that both countries fully agree on, especially in these northern and eastern regions. This disagreement about where the real border lies is the main cause of the ongoing tensions. After the 1962 war, China and India tried to find a way to manage the border without constant fighting. From the early 1990s to the early 2010s, they made a series of agreements. They decided on a temporary border called the Line of Actual Control, or LAC. This LAC is not an official fixed border. It is a working line where both countries agreed to keep things as they were. The agreement meant that neither side should build new structures, move into new areas, or change the land in any way. Both countries could send soldiers to patrol these regions, but they promised not to set up permanent military camps or disturb the situation. The main idea was to avoid more conflict and keep peace until a final border could be decided. However, even the exact location of this temporary line is sometimes not fully clear to both sides, which can lead to new problems. 5. More trouble on the border. The agreements made to keep peace on the border did not always work well. Even with the line of actual control, problems still happened. This temporary border, where both sides agreed not to build new things or change the situation, was often challenged. Sometimes, both countries did not agree on exactly where this line was. This caused new tensions and small fights. Small incidents started to happen. In 2013, a disagreement broke out in the Demchok Valley. This area is close to Ladakh. Then, in 2015, another problem occurred. Indian soldiers destroyed a structure that Chinese soldiers had built. India said the structure was on its land. These events showed that the border was still a place of frequent small disputes, even without major wars. A bigger problem started in 2017. This happened at a place called the Doklam Plateau. This area is important because it is where the borders of China, Bhutan, and India meet. China began to build a road there. This road was very close to an important travel route for India. This route is a narrow strip of land, sometimes called the Chicken's Neck. It connects India's northeastern states to the rest of the country. If China controlled this road, it could cut off India's land access in a future conflict. India saw China's road building as a direct threat to its security. India is a friend of Bhutan, and Bhutan also saw the road as a problem. So, Indian soldiers moved to the Doklam Plateau to stop China from building the road. For many months, Indian and Chinese soldiers stood very close to each other. They were face to face, but they did not shoot or fight with weapons. Both sides just waited and watched. This was a very tense time, but thankfully no one was hurt. The standoff finally ended, but it showed how easily trouble could start again on the border. 6. The fight in 2020. Before 2020, India and China had good economic ties. In 2019, leaders met and spoke of working together. This led to a strong period of trade and investment. China became India's largest trading partner. Chinese businesses invested a lot in India, especially in telecommunications and new 5G internet networks. At this time, the economic relationship between India and China was probably the best it had ever been. Then, in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic began to spread. Because of China's handling of the virus, India started to worry. India became concerned about relying too much on China. India worried about transparency of Chinese companies and if China would use economic ties for influence. For many years, standoffs between soldiers on the border were mostly peaceful. Both sides had agreements not to use firearms. Soldiers often used loudspeakers to taunt each other from afar. However, soon after the pandemic, the border situation changed. In May 2020, China sent many soldiers to the disputed Ladakh region. This was a surprise to India. China stated India's new roads and airfields changed the border status, forcing China to respond. After weeks of small skirmishes, a serious clash happened. It was a deadly fight where no guns were used. Instead, soldiers fought hand to hand. 20 Indian soldiers and at least 4 Chinese soldiers died. This violent event happened when the economic relationship between India and China was at its strongest point in history. This event surprised many experts who study China and India. They questioned why China would risk such an important relationship with India. China wanted to keep India from getting too close to its main rival, the United States. Experts wondered why China would put this important relationship in danger. Some thought China saw the land as important and did not expect India to fight back, thinking India would accept the changes. 7. What China wants. China uses a special way to slowly claim land. Experts call this salami slicing. It means making many small changes over time, like slicing a sausage piece by piece. China builds new villages in mountain areas that are disputed. For example, a village named Pongda was built near the Doklam Plateau in early 2021. Some of these new villages are on land that Bhutan also claims. This way, China slowly puts its mark on the land without starting a large war. They change the facts on the ground, hoping that no one will push back strongly. China's main goal for doing this is not always about getting valuable land or new resources. A big reason is to show strength to its own people. President Xi Jinping and the Communist Party of China want to prove that they can protect China's claimed territories. This helps build national pride, especially after challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic. It is a way to show that China is strong and can stand tall in the world. China also uses a style called wolf warrior diplomacy. This means that Chinese diplomats and officials speak very aggressively to defend China's positions and claims. State media in China also often show military achievements. They celebrate these successes to show the world and their own citizens that China's territorial claims are strong and protected. However, India is different from some other countries that China has disagreements with. In places like the South China Sea, many smaller countries cannot easily challenge China's actions. But India is a very large country with a big army. It has the power to stand firm. Even if India is not as advanced in all areas like technology or military spending, it is one of the few nations that can truly push back against China's claims in the region. This makes the border situation between India and China much more complex and challenging. 8. The world is watching. India did not like China's large Belt and Road Initiative. This project aims to connect many countries through roads, ports, and other infrastructure. India saw it as a way for China to get more power. India was one of the first big countries to say no to the Belt and Road Forum. They believed the project did not follow good rules for money, the environment, or being open. Also, a part of the Belt and Road goes through land that India claims. This part is called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Because of this, India will likely keep saying no to the Belt and Road for a long time. After the border fight in 2020, India made more changes. They wanted to be less dependent on China. India banned many Chinese mobile applications. These apps, like TikTok, were very popular. This showed India's strong reaction. India also started to work more closely with other countries. Prime Minister Modi made the Quad alliance stronger. The Quad includes 4 democracies: Australia, Japan, India, and the US. This group wants to keep the Indo-Pacific region free and open. They work together to prevent China from becoming too powerful there. The U.S. has wanted to have stronger ties with India for many years. U.S. leaders see India as an important partner. India can help balance China's power. It is also a good economic choice and a democratic country, unlike China. The U.S. believes supporting India helps its own national security. If China has to focus some resources on India, it can help the balance of power in Asia. In the past, India tried not to pick sides, especially during the Cold War. But the recent border problems might change this. The US and India could gain a lot if they work together against China. If they do not, they could lose much. China sees India's growing ties with the US and the Quad as a big issue. Beijing tries to act in a way that defends its land but does not push India completely into the US's arms. A full solution to the border dispute seems unlikely soon. Trade between India and China might not return to normal quickly. It is not likely that India and China will be friendly again very soon. Do you think India and China can ever be true friends again?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.